Hey everybody, I'm back tonight with another SpectroTime segment. Actually, tonight is going to be a full episode. I was doing the research for the history of IllumiNations at Epcot, which is what I'm talking about tonight. And when I was writing it, it was getting really long. So I emailed Jason, and I know he doesn't like if it's more than 20 or 30 minutes. He would prefer that it just be a whole show. So the main topic of the show tonight is going to be my segment, basically. So this is the second time I've done that. Anyway, it's about 8:15 here. So I think we're going to get started in about 15 minutes or so. So I will come back to you when we begin. See you in a bit.
And I'm glad that you dig on it now. So thank you for that.
Nice.
All right, that's it. We're done.
That is it. Yes.
Okay.
We are ready for Jeremy.
All right, Jeremy. What do you think, bud?
I think I want to hear my music.
Oh my goodness! I didn't know that you were going to go that route. I didn't know it was a real thing.
You don't have to.
Well, no, I do. Now I do, but
Oh man, I really messed up his flow.
Behind some of Disney's most beloved pieces of music, it's SpectroTime.
This magic night, a million stars will play beside us, cast a spell of light. Glimmering, shimmering, carouseling round the world.
all right, and we go to Jeremy now from SpectroRadio.us to talk to us about, well, I'll let him explain. Jeremy?
Well, Jason, thanks for throwing it over here. We're going to talk about the history of IllumiNations, which is the nighttime spectacular at Epcot. And by the way, I really appreciate that music. I don't think I could have started this off. I would have stumbled the whole way through.
I don't want that from you.
No, you don't. So IllumiNations, the titular IllumiNations goes back to 1988, but we have to go back a bit further in order to really talk about the history of IllumiNations all the way to October 1982, to a show that debuted, which is the month Epcot opened, by the way. And a new show debuted over the World Showcase Lagoon called Carnival de Lumière.
Fancy.
Carnival de Lumière featured 3 floating barges displaying rear projected images, plus fountains and pyrotechnics, and it celebrated world festivals with those fountains, film, music, and other effects. But it had a shortcoming. It could only be viewed on the northern portion of the World Showcase Promenade between the countries of Canada and Mexico. So at Epcot, the countries are basically situated around basically a circular lagoon, and this only took place on maybe an eighth of it. So it's kind of like World of Color, as you can only view it from one side of that body of water.
Okay, makes sense.
Carnival de Lumière lasted only a few months until the summer of 1983 saw the debut of a New World Fantasy. New World Fantasy included some updates to the hardware of the show, including the addition of rooftop searchlights on some of the pavilions of World Showcase. This new show featured a soundtrack of classical music, played on synthesizers, directed by Don Dorsey. And we know Don Dorsey famously produced the Main Street Electrical Parade. So, he loves those synthesizers.
Who
Don't
doesn't,
we
man?
all?
By the way, I got to tell you, the other day we're like, oh, let's turn on Spectro, man. And we're just hanging out and whatever. And, we're listening for a couple hours. And then the Main Street Electrical Parade theme music comes on.
Yeah.
And it stays on, and it stays on, and I swear, like 8 to 10 minutes go by, and it's whatever it is, and I look at Taryn, I'm like, God, this song is so long. It goes on, and it never stops. It never stops. It's so repetitive.
It is, but it's so nice too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that wasn't Terrence who posted that?
No, that was me.
Oh, okay.
That was me because you can tell it was me because it was funny.
Wow.
And angry.
Rude.
Yeah, like curmudgeonly.
It was curmudgeonly for sure. It was like, oh my God, why is this still on? It's beating my brain up.
Well, it's the soundtrack, so if you think about it, I think the Main Street Electrical Parade took somewhere between 18 and 24 minutes to go past you. If you're sitting in one place, so.
I think the theme was like 15 minutes long, the theme song.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. It totally makes sense. I'm just anyway, I apologize for derailing. Please continue.
The Tokyo version, Dreamlights, is actually, I think it's 26 or 28 minutes long. So buckle up when that one comes on. So, New World Fantasy contained 4 sections: a fanfare, and then Act 1, which was called Celebrations on Land and featured the pieces Beethoven's Fifth Symphony and Piano Concerto No. 1, as well as a few others. Act 2 was titled Spectacles on Water and featured such tracks as The Pines of Rome and the Beautiful Blue Danube. And Act 3, which was a finale, was called Revelries and Pyrotechnics, which featured Mussorgsky's Great Gate of Kiev and pictures at an exhibition, Stravinsky's Firebird Suite, and ended with Tchaikovsky's 1812 Festival Overture. Take a listen to some of Don Dorsey's synthesized classical score to Epcot's New World Fantasy, No. 1.
I'm just dabbing to the 1812 overture. Don't worry about it.
Oh yeah, dab all you want. Jason, you once described the music at Disney World as endearingly annoying.
I would say that's pretty accurate.
Hold on. Oh yeah, dab all you want. It's not gonna bother me. Oh yes, endearingly annoying. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Man, we're only on track 1.
Buckle up when you hear this show come around.
New World Fantasy lasted not quite a year when on June 9th, 1984, Epcot Center debuted a new show. This was called Laserphonic Fantasy.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good name. This show was notable because it could now finally be viewed all around World Showcase in its entirety. It used the same soundtrack as its predecessor, New World Fantasy, that you just heard, but it was choreographed to entirely new visuals, fountains, lasers, and lights around the whole of the lagoon. Laserphonic Fantasy was also notable as the first use of laser graphics projected onto a water droplet screen. Laserphonic Fantasy lasted 4 years, until January 30th, 1988 saw the debut of Epcot's groundbreaking new show, IllumiNations, carrying the sponsorship of General Electric and featuring all new show hardware. Most notably, a central laser barge topped with a sphere that included internal lasers for rear projections on its surface, as well as externally facing lasers and searchlights. GE sponsorship lent many changes to the actual World Showcase countries themselves as well. The 9 original pavilions saw the addition of colored show lighting, edge lighting, and animated show lighting on building roofs. The audio was based on Laserphonic Fantasy, but this time the soundtrack was fully orchestrated and was recorded by the Toronto Symphony Orchestra, featuring music arranged by Don Dorsey, Steve Scareggia, and Bruce Healy, who we know from his work on Fantasmic. Take a listen to some of the opening of the original IllumiNations, No. 2.
With the music as your passport, we'll discover sights and sounds from colorful ports of call. And to celebrate our journey, the countries will be united by the festive elements of water, fire, and light. And now, let your imagination be your guide as Epcot Center proudly presents IllumiNations.
I kind of like that. That sounds pretty good.
It was great.
Yeah.
I still get chills like listening to that.
I got goosebumps listening to that.
Really?
Yeah, I really did.
Oh.
And when it really builds, is when the first time that evening at Epcot that they would turn all the lights on all the countries on. So basically, you're looking out kind of at a sea of darkness, and then when it changes over at that middle part, suddenly everything's illuminated. And so here's a little personal story. That's the first thing I ever experienced at any Disney park in my life. Because when I was a kid and we got to Disney, we landed at night. My dad's like, hey, there's a laser show at Epcot. Do you want to go? And I'm like, okay. So we got there like half an hour before it started. It's dark. And then all of a sudden I'm just like, whoa, what's this? So
You got a deep voice for being however old you were.
deeper than it. Yeah, I reversed.
What's
Dude.
this wrong? By the way, I need a new diaper.
Save me. My sideburns are too long.
Right.
Well, that's cool. I mean, it has some personal story for you. I like that, Jeremy. Oh, God. We lost
He's gone.
Oh my god.
You thought this was going to be short?
I can't take any more. I gotta knock out the anecdotes. The theme of Illuminations was international travel. In order to set the stage for our journey,
Please do that for the rest of the show.
the first act features laser images of different modes of transportation and iconic sites from around the world projected onto the fountains and water screens to set to a montage of music featuring Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, Rimsky-Korsakov's Flight of the Bumblebee, the Zampa Overture, Bach's Italian Concerto Movement No. 3, and Rossini's William Tell Overture No. 3.
Give me box line. Amazing.
And with that, we begin Act 2. Act 2 has us visiting the various ports of call that World Showcase has to offer, as the show highlights each of the individual World Showcase countries one at a time with a short lighting feature set to music from each country. Scheherazade represented Morocco, the Infernal Gallop from Jacques Offenbach's Orpheus in the Underworld takes us to France, Days of Emancipation provides the music to our stop in China, Rule Britannia takes us to the United Kingdom, while Johann Strauss's Tales of the Vienna Woods is our musical backdrop in Germany. Sakura is our music in Japan. Mexico is celebrated by España Cani. A traditional French-Canadian jig brings us to Canada. And we hear Denza's Funiculi Funicula as we stop in Italy. And in the United States, we of course hear George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue to finish out the second act. Take a listen to some of the pieces that take us around World Showcase number 4.
Wow.
I was waiting for the España Kanye one. Which one was that one?
España Kanye. Phones are hammers, people.
Oh. Your boy. I can't run with that guy in 2020 now. I can't be the VP.
No?
He lost
That's
his
too bad.
mind.
That's too
Sorry.
bad. All right, Jeremy, continue on, please.
That brings us to Act 3, which is a robust finale that combines the elements of this global tour with a dazzling pyrotechnic display on and above the World Showcase Lagoon, and features the festive music of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, Stravinsky's Firebird Suite, Mahler's Titan Symphony, and Tchaikovsky's 1812 Festival Overture, among others. Number 5.
I feel like the 1812 Overture is like a standard, a gold standard in fireworks.
Yes.
Everywhere
absolutely.
you go. I mean, it's just, I was going to say it's so classical, but
Like literally.
yeah.
God, it's so classical.
Like totally written like 200 years ago.
Or something. It's vintage. It's vintage music, everybody. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you need a finale, look no further. Like, Tchaikovsky's got you covered.
I love that, man.
You can dab all you want with it.
Curtsy and then dab.
As I mentioned earlier, the show was sponsored by General Electric. Now, back in the 1980s, you might remember GE's theme song was We Bring Good Things to Life. Take a listen, number 6.
Oh, number 6. Okay, here we go.
GE.
Bring good things to life. The minute you said GE, that theme song popped into my head. I watch a lot of TV as a
That was my
boy.
babysitter, yeah.
That's great.
Someone has to kill the babysitter.
Oh, such a good movie.
Go ahead, please.
So following each performance of Illuminations, guests were treated to exit music as they left the park. This exit music used a combination of the tunes It's a Small World and also GE's We Bring Good Things to Life theme, and adapted them using various international musical styles. Number 7.
Can't wait for this. I'm actually like really happy about it. I love the woo!
I know. You're definitely on camera.
That's all right. I like it. That got funky, man.
I listened to it.
You did.
I
would-
think the interesting thing is that, like, that is, like, really blatant branding being blasted into the park, and I feel like today people would have a meltdown.
Oh, for sure. It's not what Walt would have wanted.
Right?
Walt wouldn't have wanted it. Did you see the Monsanto home tomorrow or whatever?
Right.
True.
He didn't want any
Hall
corporate.
of Aluminum, presented by Riddle Trap.
I love Real Trap. Go ahead, Joe.
The first version of Illuminations used 13 special effects projectors, which could change the appearance of each pavilion. So, in part of the show, the American pavilion looked like the U.S. Capitol, and they made the Germany pavilion look like a gingerbread house, and so on and so on. It also incorporated 6 lasers, 11 giant searchlights, 12 wire mesh grids, 108 nozzles, which created the fountains, 783 fireworks pieces, 550 theatrical lights, 680 strobe lights, and 5 miles of building outlining edge lighting like that on Main Street, USA.
Miles.
When Illuminations was first performed, it was described as a nighttime spectacle that captured the glitter of Times Square, the fantasy of Paris at night, and the splendor of Piccadilly in an international music and light show. The final performance of the original Illuminations took place on September 20th, 1996. Because on September 21st, 1996, a new version titled Illuminations 25 debuted. This version was created to be part of the 25th anniversary celebration of the Walt Disney World Resort. The theme for the entire resort was a party. Hence, over at the Magic Kingdom, you may have seen some photos of a of a castle that looks like a big birthday cake.
Yes.
Oh, it's awful.
And that was part of this.
We talked about that. That's terrible.
So bad.
The tagline to the celebration was "Remember the Magic." The new theme of Illuminations was now all about celebrating, and this was, of course, reflected in a new score. Out was the classical score that swept us around in an audio-visual tour of the Countries of World Showcase, and in was a new high-energy score. The show initially starts off with the Remember the Magic theme of the 25th anniversary, which was composed by Ira Antelis and Cheryl Berman. That is followed by greetings from each of the Countries of World Showcase in their native language, welcoming us to the worldwide family to celebrate together over the Remember the Magic theme. Number 8.
From my country, please welcome our guests of honor from Canada.
And from Europe, diamo il benvenuto ai membri della nostra famiglia italiana. From the land of my birth, veuillez accueillir nos familles françaises.
And from Africa, نود أن نرحب من فضلكم بضيوف الشرف من بلد المغرب.
From the land of the rising sun, 日本の皆様、ようこそお越しくださいました。And from my wonderful land, acompáñenme en darles la bienvenida a nuestra familia de México.
And to all of our family members who have traveled here from around the United States, welcome.
It's fine. I didn't hate it.
It's fine.
It was a thing.
I had to work too hard to figure out what country one was from.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. And here's a fun fact.
Tell me.
They used actual visiting cast members from each of the World Showcase countries to record those greetings.
Oh, wow. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
They all sounded very professional, like very professional voiceover actor. They had they projected very well.
Well, you get a good enough mic, you can do anything.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Illuminations 25 was composed and orchestrated by Gregory Smith. Gregory Smith is no stranger to Disney at all, having arranged and conducted the Disneyland Nighttime Spectacular's Magical, Remember Dreams Come True, which is part of the Disneyland 50th anniversary, and Holiday Wishes at the Magic Kingdom, as well as Tokyo Disneyland's Main Street Electrical Parade Dreamlights, among countless others. That takes us to Act 1, a worldwide celebration, which is comprised of 3 parts. Part 1 was called Mescleta, which is a calypso. Part 2 was called International Fantasy. And Part 3 wraps up with a reprise of the Mescleta theme, number 9.
Illuminations 25.
That juicy bass slide. You hear that?
I love it.
Can I be honest? Whenever I hear like calypso music like that, I always think of Romancing the Stone.
Man, I haven't seen that movie in forever.
When they go to Cartagena?
Yeah.
Never seen it.
Well, of course. That's like saying the sun is hot.
This version of Illuminations differs from its predecessor, also because it goes from 0 to 60 right away. There's no build-up for the pyrotechnics. World Showcase is flooded with fireworks straight away to match the upbeat worldwide celebration music. Act 2 shifts in tone and celebrates Epcot's spirit of discovery. The pyrotechnics go away for a bit, and we see images representing science and discovery projected onto water screens on the lagoon. The music for Act 2 is the Discovery Suite, also orchestrated and composed by Gregory Smith, and incorporates Epcot's original We've Just Begun to Dream fanfare, written by Steve Scoriggia and Jack Eskew, and arranged here by Gregory Smith. Number 10.
Very sweeping, man. They love the sweeping orchestral maneuver, Johns.
They do. So, like, I'm on board up to here, right? We've got our worldwide celebration music, the Discovery Suite. It's a nod to Future World. Great, I'm in.
Yeah.
Then Act 3 comes, and this is the finale. And this is where it gets a little weird.
Okay. Well, we like weird, so
we do. Check out how we're introduced to Act 3. Number 11.
As we come together to celebrate Walt Disney World's 25th anniversary, let us remember not just the past, but the present, this very moment, as we stand side by side, young and old, as one. After all, this is really a festival of friendship, a celebration of family, a circle of life.
Okay, a couple things. How do you remember the present? The very fact that you're remembering it means that it's not now. When will now be now?
Then.
When? You just missed it. Just now.
I'm surrounded by... Never mind. We'll see the rest of that.
Jeremy hasn't listened to it.
He hasn't seen Spaceballs before, yeah.
That's what stuck out in my mind. But what did you not like? I take it you didn't like it.
Well, so it's going to take us into something else. My thing is, you shouldn't have to explain what's happening in the show. Like, if it's so awkward that you have to crowbar in, like, here we are, standing in a circle, and then, like, make the 3 connections to Circle of Life, which is what we're about to hear.
Okay.
That's a problem. The story should tell itself without this narrator jumping in. So that takes us into a version of Circle of Life performed by the Florida Mass Choir, number 12.
From the day we arrive on the planet, blinking step into the sun, there's more to see that can never be seen, more to do that can never be done. There is far and it moves on. Through this web and home, faith and love, till we find.
I love that time signature. It was slowed down, and it actually was kind of neat.
Yeah. It's not bad.
I just feel like that's the finale at Epcot.
Doesn't feel like a finale.
It doesn't.
Definitely feels like a segue song, like a bridge song somewhere.
I agree. Yeah.
And it's Circle of Life at Epcot. I don't get, like, it doesn't feel like a finale, and it doesn't feel like Epcot. It's literally it's the Circle of Life.
Well, Epcot is circle, so they got real literal with it.
Ugh.
And living people are there, so
It makes me so angry. Give me Tchaikovsky. That's a finale.
That's right. Oh,
Yes.
PT.
Illuminations 25 only lasted 8 months before Disney reconfigured the show into what became unofficially known as Illuminations 25B. This version of the show began on May 19th, 1997 and continued until January 31st, 1998. Illuminations 25B began much the same as Illuminations 25 did, with the same welcome from each of the countries around the world, welcoming you in their native language. The difference in this show was the original soundtrack you just heard was scrapped, and Illuminations returned to a classical score, more reminiscent of the original show. But also, an old friend of ours is on the scene. The diligent, the inventive, the visionary, the diplomatic,
oh God,
the well-coiffed, John Debney.
Well-coiffed.
I love that.
John Debney not only arranges all the various classical pieces we hear in the show, but he also writes an original piece called Illuminations Fanfare that leads off the show, number 13.
Now we're talking. Now that's an intro.
Yeah, thank you, Debney!
Sounded royal.
I mean, that could have even been the finale.
Yeah,
that was
really good.
Pretty good.
That grabbed your attention.
Yeah.
It did.
After Debney's sparkling fanfare heralds the start of the show, Act 1 begins. This act, entitled World Showcase, uses various pieces of music that each reflect different nations, such as Die Meistersinger Overture by Richard Wagner, Barber of Seville Overture by Rossini, and Hoedown by Aaron Copland, among others, number 14.
So far, it's much better. I'll tell you that.
I think it's good. While these tracks each suggest various nations, the difference is we don't have that deliberate individual highlighting of each country as we did in the original. And the focus remains less on the actual countries and more on the dancing fountains, lights, and pyrotechnics. So this version's a little more abstract and really suggests the different countries.
Okay.
Act 2, entitled Future World, stretches our imaginations even further as it continues to use classical music to nod to Future World. So this portion, yeah. Like, it's not so obvious. Like, before, they literally had to hold your hand and tell you everything that's happening. Now they're, like, just throwing it, like, just figure it out.
Okay. Yeah, I don't like that either.
This portion uses such pieces as Saint-Saëns' The Aquarium from Carnival of the Animals, Hornpipe from Handel's Water Music Suite, Holst's Jupiter, the Bringer of Jollity from the Planet Suite, and Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, Ode to Joy, among others. Number 15.
What I like about these segments, Jeremy, just to interrupt you for the 100th time today, is that I would never would really have concentrated on these little segments if you hadn't broken them down.
Right.
And so I appreciate that a lot because you're standing there and you're kind of visually overstimulated, you know. And then in my mind, the music in the fireworks and stuff in the show, the music is secondary for me because I'm looking at what's happening. I like fire and explosions and I like stuff like that. But having the music extracted and kind of broken down it helps you kind of realize that there's much more going on.
It's a lot of depth to it.
And a lot of work put in behind it. It's not just like, oh, we'll push play on the old CD player and hope for the best.
Well, you pick up on something really important because it's true. Like the way they didn't just randomly pick a bunch of classical music and throw it out there against pyrotechnics. They said, like, so if you think about the pieces that are in the Future World section, they don't necessarily feel futuristic, but it's Jupiter from the Planet Suite, so that relates back to space, and then the aquarium, which relates back to the living seas. So it's there, but it's a lot more subtle. And until you see it, like I to be honest with you, I never realized it until I was reading this. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense, but it's hard to pick up on that.
Yeah, well, I don't know who would. Like, you know, I wonder how many people, probably like, James Bond, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he
I
does.
wonder if he would like stand there and be like, oh, hey, this is Saturn or Jupiter from the Space Friend Suite or whatever it is.
Right.
You know, like how many people are actually like hearing these things? I always imagine Jeremy can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, were you at the 100 show?
Well, look.
That's true. Jimmy
Fair play.
and Jimmy and Nick kind of destroyed you. I forgot about that.
I'm sure Jimmy and Nick probably are like, we knew this.
Who doesn't, bro?
Duh. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
The exit music again salutes the sponsorship of GE with an arrangement of the company's We Bring Good Things to Life theme that employs various international influences, but this time without Small World, number 16.
Romancing the Stone. I heard it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On February 1st, 1998, with the end of the 20th anniversary celebrations, the show's name dropped to 25 and was once again titled simply IllumiNations. The new classical soundtrack remained, but all references to the 25th anniversary celebration were removed. This version, often referred to as IllumiNations 98, remained until September 21st, 1999, when Walt Disney World launched its historic Millennium Celebration, and with it unveiled IllumiNations 2000, Reflections of Earth. This version of IllumiNations, which runs to this day, features a brand new original score by Gavin Greenaway, and tells the story of our planet from the beginning of the universe to today, number 17.
You were going to say IllumiNations 2000, weren't you?
Yes.
Jeremy, let me ask you a question. You may not know the answer to this, but what's the square root of fourth? No, what? You said this was for 2000. Were they working? Obviously, they had to have been working on this before the other stuff was changed, right? Or what? Do you know the timeline on how long it takes to redo the music for these?
Well, if you listen back to my Millennium Celebration show, I get into that, but I'll tell you. They started conceptualizing the Millennium Celebration in 1996.
Oh, okay.
Wow. So, but it took Greenaway didn't take 4 years to write it because, if you remember, originally they were going to have a different composer work on it, and they couldn't get it was oh god, what's his name? It's escaping me now, but they couldn't get him to show up. And so finally they had to give it to Gavin Greenaway, and they said, quick, write something. And he came up. So the concept for the whole show was almost 4 years in the making, but the music he wrote that in about a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. The first demo CD that Don Dorsey received from Greenaway, he got it in about a month. And of course they, had to finesse it and make changes, but first draft, 1 month.
Well, and then for the 25th, they, he said 8 months in they redid it. Did they know it was going? Did they redo it because it's going south? First of all, and then if you check yes, then what point did they realize it was going south, and how long did they work on that? These are the questions that I would want to know.
So I don't know how long it took to rejig it, but from what I read, the reason that they got rid of it, because they changed over Illuminations 25 before the 25th anniversary was over. Mm-hmm. They went back to the classical score, and what I was able to read was that it was because people didn't like the new version, and they got a lot of negative feedback about it, and so they said, well, quick, let's put something together. And I guess they called on Debney. Now, I don't know if that's confirmed, but I did read that, and it makes sense, because why else would you change the show like halfway through the celebration?
Right, because how much money have you already poured into using that soundtrack?
Right.
And 25th celebration, so it's not going to be forever, so who cares? But apparently people must have been really upset. But I don't know, that would be interesting to find out how fast did Debney put that together.
Yeah.
And it sounds amazing.
Yeah. It's a good question. I mean, my guess is that it probably takes less time to arrange a piece that's already written than it does to write a piece first.
That's
so
true.
At least a lot of the work was done. He just had to make sure it was all in the same key and whatever.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jeremy.
You got it.
Go ahead, please.
Through the years, there have been various versions of the show to reflect different times of the year. Before the arrival of Illuminations Reflections of Earth, during the Christmas period, Illuminations became Holiday Illuminations and featured entire score of Christmas audio, number 18.
What was that one in the middle there with the kids speaking in tongues?
They're singing about Hanukkah.
That was
Ladysmith Black Mambazo.
Deck the Halls, wasn't it?
No. Deck the Halls, homie?
Deck the Halls was the last piece you just heard, but in the middle was the song about Hanukkah.
Okay. What was it, Terrence?
Ladysmith Black Mambazo. You've never heard of them before?
I have.
Yes, listen to Paul Simon's Graceland. They're all over that album.
They are also part of the area music of the African Outpost section of Epcot's African Outpost.
A completely a cappella African band. They're amazing. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, they are really good. Additionally, Illuminations during the holidays has a Peace on Earth tag featuring voices from each World Showcase country wishing peace on earth, goodwill to men in their native language, and until very recently also featured the voice of the venerable American newscaster Walter Cronkite, number 19.
世界和平，为人类造福。Pace in terra agli uomini di buona volontà.
During this glorious time of year, there is one message that rings out around the world in every language. Peace on earth, goodwill to men, is a wish to hold in our hearts throughout each passing year. And so our holiday wish is that everyone, everywhere, share in the spirit of the season. Peace on earth, goodwill to men.
Hope he has a pleasant tomorrow.
Good night. A pleasant tomorrow.
That guy's voice is unbelievable. When I hear him, it's like I get choked up. New Year's Eve is one of the most popular days of the year at Epcot, and through the years, there have been a couple versions of their New Year's Eve countdown. This one from 1994 lasted until 1998 and used the original Epcot theme, We've Just Begun to Dream, number 20.
We hope that you have enjoyed this evening's performance of Illuminations. And now, Epcot Center and GE Lighting would like to present a special finale to ring in the new year.
First of all, slowest count in the entire history of the world.
That song is in like 24 BPM. Like, it's insane.
I know the track also actually comes down from 10, but I was like, I gotta cut this down a bit. We're gonna be here all night.
An hour later, yeah.
I was like, let's just start at 5.
And can you imagine? Not can you imagine? I think one of the greatest sounds of all time is synth drums. I mean, geez, listen to this, man. Come on.
We hope that you have enjoyed this evening's performance.
Phil Collins. There we go.
And now, Epcot Center and GE Lighting would like to present a special finale to ring in the new year.
Here it comes.
Rototoms. They're amazing.
And what's a finale? Finale.
The bougie finale.
My family invented that word. No. And Tony Hawk stole it to create the
Oh my god.
Really?
No, Tony Hawk didn't steal the word. Go ahead, Jeremy, please.
All right, we're coming to the end. With the arrival of Reflections of Earth, a new New Year's Eve tag was developed that recalls the Pavilion Chase portion of the original Illumination show, highlighting each World Showcase country, and even reuses some of that original soundtrack. In this version, Epcot counts down to midnight by highlighting when the countries of World Showcase each celebrated their New Year that day, and then finishes with a grand celebration for Canada, Mexico, and the United States at midnight Eastern Time, number 21.
That's a cool idea.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if they execute it well. Play.
Many of our World Showcase friends have already greeted the new year. At 10 a.m. this morning, 2015 reached the country of Japan, and 1 hour later, China celebrated the new year.
皆様、新年明けましておめでとうございます。
And barely 5 hours ago, our friends in Morocco and the United Kingdom shouted a rousing cheer. Sana Saida!
All my Moroccans in the house say woo! Oh, jeez. No, you walnut. Those are maracas.
That's what I meant. They use maracas?
Moroccans.
We're like the
In
thing,
Morocco's?
like the thing that you like the. What are they called?
The castanets.
Castanets. Yeah, the castanets aren't even maracas. They're castanets. She's like doing the clicky thing, like she has castanets. She goes, "Are these maracos?"
No, I didn't. I said, do they use maracas?
No, you said, "Are these maracos?"
I did not say.
Beverly,
I'm
thanks.
aware that maracas.
Let Jeremy finish this,
Yes.
please,
Sorry, Jeremy.
before we fire Beverly.
The end.
So, do they do something new every New Year's Eve or not? Doesn't sound like it.
No, that's pretty much their jam. So
I like that they give the times. That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
it's cool. I really want to experience it sometime.
You haven't done it yet?
No.
Oh, bro.
No. It's one of those days where like the park reaches capacity at 10 a.m. and if you leave, you're not getting back in.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
You know,
there's no way. I was gonna say I celebrated New Year's Eve in Disneyland, but I didn't. It was in Trader Sam's.
It's just better.
Yeah, that's when I almost got into a fight. Apparently.
Oh yeah, they do.
Yeah, that's right.
Can we just share a table?
No, homie, you're a D. You're one of those too. You want to come outside and tell me what? No,
I just told you inside. Why do I have to say it again?
Wait a minute, you're like 6'5". What was this guy thinking?
He is pretty tall too, and I don't think that he knew how tall I was. I always imagine myself if I ever have to get into some physical altercation, which I don't want to do because it's always better to be a smartass about it than to actually fight somebody. No, because I've almost got beat about that too. But anyway, that like if I'm sitting down and someone's trying to like intimidate me, I just stand up. I imagine that scene from Police Academy where Hightower gets up out of the car after he's like, whatever.
Yeah. The dude just cowers. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I imagine, but I'm not that physically imposing because I'm very weak and
that doesn't work for me. Like I stand up and they're like, "Are you done standing up yet?"
I'm on my tiptoes. What are you doing? Well, Jeremy, I thought that was very good, my friend. I think we saw that. I can't remember. It's been so long since we've been there. But I like the shows in Epcot. I think they always did a really good job, man. I think that they were honestly better than the shows at Disneyland, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's really good. It is. It's one of those. I can't go down there and miss it.
When are you coming into the studio? That's a rumor that's happening.
Yeah, well, we were talking about that I would be there for this one, but I didn't realize how close it was to Memorial Day, so we got to figure this out soon.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, we have the dates in the calendar, so check those things.
I will. I will. Yeah. I will be in California before, at least probably before August, so we can have this happen in the next 2 months, I'd say.
SoCal?
What's that?
SoCal? Disneyland?
Both. I have to come up to San Fran, actually.
Okay, hold on. Let's stop real quick.
Thank you.
You cannot call it San Fran, by the way. You can't call it San Fran.
Or
you can't call it Frisco.
Frisco!
San Francisco, the Bay Area, or the city. That's it. That's all you can call it.
The city?
I'm trying to help you out. I don't want you to get punched in the face if you're like, yeah, let's go over to San Fran for a beer, and like all of a sudden someone runs out of nowhere and stops you in the jaw. And it would be it.
I've said San Fran before, but I've never said Frisco, and that's the one that I think
it.
That's the one, and everyone gets weird about it. But just so you know, it's the city.
It's the city or the Bay. Just call it the Bay.
The
city? No. Hold on. Don't call it the Bay, because you're not going into the Bay. I'm going to think you're talking literally. It's like people who, I don't want to offend anybody, but when they say I'm going to Disney, where are you going? Like for me, I go, where are you going? I don't understand.
If they say they're going to Disney, they're going to Disney World.
Well, I know that now, but like it's still confusing for me. I have to like pause and think about it. Just say Disney World. Why don't you say Disney World, Jeremy? Why is it? Because if we say Disneyland, we don't say Disney World.
I don't know what I say.
You say Disney.
I think I say Disney.
It's an East Coast thing, and I'm not like saying that anyone's right or wrong. I've just always been curious about that.
He's just saying that he's right.
It's the same reason why you guys call, I guess, San Francisco the city. Like it's the only city.
It's not the only one, just the best one.
It's the city to avoid at all costs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No. Yes. Disagree. It's a city to not live in, but live close enough you can go there when you want to.
Oh, Mazel.
But then you never want to.
Mazel.
Are you tripping? You don't want to go to San Francisco.
Look, we'll talk on the secret show about why you don't want to go to San Francisco.
Okay.
All right, Jeremy, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you in person in our very warm studio.
I can't wait.
All right, homie.
Okay.
We'll see you.
Have a good night.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.